Rob, it's been a long time, man. And for folks who are watching us on Rudy Blair Entertainment Media, RudyBlairMedia.com, Rob literally just, called in to set this up. And I didn't want to wait because what I hate is having great conversations before we start recording. I wanted to get everything on because, brother,
Makes sense.
you and I haven't seen each other. Would I be wrong in saying close to 10 years? Would I
think
be
so.
wrong?
Yeah. Geez. Yeah.
Because I think
you
the
still
last time,
you still look great, man. You don't have an age today, man. You still
oh, please, I could say the same thing about you, man. I think the
Yeah.
last time I saw you
My
was when I
glasses.
had my Rogers television show and you were
That's
on
right.
that.
Yep, that's right. Yep. Hair's a little bit longer. I don't know. I've gone through some phase. I think my hair was really short back then, but
Well, here's the funny thing is my hair is a lot shorter. I got
short.
rid of the braids and everything, man.
We did a twist. You know what I mean?
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, because you used to have long hair, man. It's awesome. So
Yeah, well, with the pandemic hitting and everything else, nobody knew what the hell was going on. And I was like washing my hair every 2 seconds. I was like, let me just take this thing out,
take
man.
this thing out of here.
You look great though, man. How's life
Thank you,
treating
brother.
you?
It's good, man. Do we have enough light? Is this okay? I could have got some more
Oh,
light. It's
light's
not.
perfect. Will you
Yeah.
stop?
Okay.
Look, you're a good looking guy. Even in the dark, we can see that. So, but you know
I
what?
should
One of
open some blinds.
the interesting things I remember a while ago, I saw news articles
Yes.
of yourself and your wife, and I kept going, "What is going on?" And I had a
Yeah.
chance to read some of them, but I
Yes.
always said I was going to contact you, but
Yeah.
you seemed so busy, because you're all over the place. You're doing shows and you're speaking and things like that.
Yeah.
Finally, we get a chance to talk about some of the things, man, because one of the big things is this what would I call it? The show that you and your wife do. I
Yep.
should say she's basically the main star on this. The music is used from what you created.
That's right.
What is this all about, and what was going on, and where did this actually stem from?
Yeah, it's called the Take Your Power Back show, and it was something that um, we've been brought into, post COVID to have to deal with, and to make something good, like lemons out of lemonade, or make lemonade out of lemons, basically. That old saying. We, in the summer of COVID of 2022, the first summer, we were just like everybody, hunkering down and learning to adapt to this new way of life that I think everybody was scrambling to find what's going on. We didn't know. We had so much misdirected information coming in. And to be honest, I think nobody knew, right? Nobody really knew how to handle this from the top down. And so we're really easygoing folks. So we just said, well, let's make the best of the situation. And I continued, I obviously, as you know me, Rudy, I've been a musician all my life, and my wife was a teacher and public speaker, and in kind of like commercials and modeling and stuff like that. So that was her kind of life. And so we went walking. We started, not that we didn't start walking right at COVID. We were walking all the time, but we accelerated the walks. Nature, we had more time, and we had to stay 6 feet apart or 6 meters apart, whatever it was. And so we went for a lot of walks. So one evening, I was just wrapping up some teaching for one of the schools that teach at online. Everything converted to online. So I was very, very happy that many of the colleges and schools still continued to teach, albeit online, but it was fine. They made the best of it. So I was wrapping up one evening of teaching, and my wife poked her head in on the side door. We were in a different home, at a different office and studio at that time. But she said, "I'm just going for a walk. I'm getting a little stir crazy. Just go out for a walk." And it was like a summer. It was July 28th, 2020. And it was about 8:10. She knocked on the door 8:10. So it was still very light outside. And I had no reason to feel, why not just go around our neighborhood? We live out here in Durham and Whitby. It's a very nice community, like anywhere else, suburban streets, like anywhere else in the GTA, like homes and big box stores. So, so she went, and when the situation happened, though, she didn't come back. That was the problem. So I was alerted that, my own gut alert, we all have our, you have, if you have kids, you have a mom, you have brothers, family, if something's off, your gut kind of gives you that alert that, something's just off. I don't feel right, because she made me a nice dinner. And I remember it was about I'd say, I'm just going to look at the time. It was about 8:30. I had eaten dinner, and I knew she'll be back probably next 15, 20 minutes before 9, before it starts getting dark. I know her. So I'm sitting there, and then next thing you know, it's like 9, after 9:50. Now I'm getting worried. Now the alerts are really bang, 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 bang going off. So I go out searching for her really. And to make a long story short, because obviously this would take a while just to go through all the details, but they found her. She was what we didn't know is she went out for the walk, and shortly um, after she was attacked on her walk, and uh, attacked and then dragged into this dark forested area where she was, beaten like beyond comprehension and raped and just horrific. It was just a horrific, thing, and left for dead in a creek bed, all night, just left for dead. Basically, it's like a evil entity, and to cross paths, like good and evil kind of just cross paths randomly. And so I had by 11, I had called by 10:30. Actually, I started saying I got to call 911 and missing alert, like missing persons, because I knew my wife, and I knew, and I made a few phone calls to her closest people in her circle that maybe she stopped off, for an evening walk and had a coffee, or was just chit chatting like normal. You can do on a walk. You meet friends in the neighborhood. That wasn't the case. And then by 11:30 midnight, it was like the Durham police were here in full force. They were really, really amazing. I can't say enough about them. They were here. They took my call very seriously. They took all the details, and they had the canine units and the helicopters and the search parties, and we searched all night. It was like nonstop, like out of a movie. You're watching, those movies where people are searching the dogs and in the forests, and that was me. And it was crazy. So then the next morning, I was being interviewed by the police, and then we had to go retrace my steps. And I was in another part of the forest, and then I could hear ambulance and stuff in the distance. And then I heard the police officers talking to on the radios. And then I asked them, I go, "What's going on? I hear ambulances going on. Did they find her?" And what ended up happening that day was just a crazy day, craziest day of my life. They did find her around 10:30 in the morning. Two young officers who were out on patrol walking that got that area. Because the night before I had to, with one of the officers, the female officers, asked me to go in her car and like retrace our steps. Like, where's all the places that potentially, as a couple, we walked in that vicinity of our home. So we did that. And we even went right by that. The crazy thing is we went right by that forest, the road, because that's on a main road. It's on Anderson and Taunton, in Whitby. So now obviously we didn't go down that dark road, but it's just, I think my wife was just, like right there. We went right by her. We did not know, but obviously, how would I? So um, and then it just, in terms of you know, getting her from the Air Orange, and it was just a chaotic day. I can't even explain. I call her impossible. I'm trying to collect my thoughts because it's just a miracle that she's even alive. I don't even know how else. I think, yeah, absolutely. I don't even know. Even the doctors, you know, were like literally one of the Italians. He was the head surgeon at St. Mike's. Where there's two. What you learn is there's Sunnybrook and St. Mike's. Those are the two trauma centers in Toronto, and where when they found her, they had to cut through with chainsaws. It's such a deep forest where this evil entity dragged her, knocked her unconscious, dragged her in there, and then just pure evil, like right out of a horror movie. And when they found her, they couldn't even get in there. The crews, they had to cut chainsaws, the fire truck. It was like every ambulance, fire crew, everything was there. They finally, and obviously her condition was, like just clinging. I didn't know, but basically it was clinging. Life was clinging to her, they said. Instead of her clinging to life was clinging to her. And they had to keep her very secure and safe. They didn't know what her damages were to her body and everything like that. It was just, so they had a very hard time moving her out of there safely without, jostling her around, because it was so fragile. It was like a hair of a hair of a hair. And then they had to divert the ambulance. I guess I only found this out after the fact, but the ambulance had to divert they were going to the Oshawa airport, where Air Orange was waiting already to transport her to St. Mike's, which you found out later. And because they alternate daily, I didn't know that. Like one day trauma takes them to Sunnybrook, one day St. Mike's, because of the overflow. So the hospitals are not overburdened with every day. So they alternate, they take turns as by law. So they had to divert her to Oshawa because she had her first cardiac arrest. In the ambulance, she passed. She had her cardiac arrest, heart stop. And they couldn't get her on Air Orange. you can't, the air said we can't take her on the, like they were radioing obviously back and forth. So they said, take her to Lake Ridge Hospital and we'll meet you there. We have to take her to Lake Ridge to stabilize somehow. She's either going to pass or we got to stabilize because we can't put her on this Air Orange hospital helicopter. So, and this is all, I have found this all out after the fact. And she ended up having, in a nutshell, 4 cardiac arrests, if you can believe. And the second one, it was, I think she was gone for like 10 minutes. You know, I think from what we've heard is she was gone for 10 minutes, and luckily some nurse just happened to check her pulse and said, "Oh my God, this woman has a pulse again." Like her heart started, and they immediately rushed and they tried to, you know, again restart her. Basically, I'm not a doctor, but they managed to stabilize her up to the 4th cardiac, which is crazy. I've never even heard of anybody having 4 cardiac arrests. So, anyway, long and short, they got her, and she was put in an induced coma because there was so much damage to her body in every single way, and they couldn't operate on her right away because there was too much damage. So they put her in the coma, and the induced coma was there to let her body heal, try to see if she's going to survive the night. And we had called all our family there. They said, call all your family to the hospital, prepare for the worst news. And that's when the hospital, you know, they said she had global brain damage, what she had suffered. So they saw no brain activity. And the doctor said, you know, like, if we're going to put her in this induced coma, but if we don't see anything, if we don't see brain activity, we're not going to operate, because her jaw and face and skull was all shattered. So they said, we can't operate. She can't handle it. Her body can't handle, first of all, the surgery right now. Her heart's so fragile. So we're going to leave her in a coma. And if we see in a week some brain activity, if we don't, then you're going to be forced to that decision where, you know, you might have to, it was horrific. Anyway, I can't talk about it. So, but this is where the miracle, a miracle later, the MRI comes in, and they see brain function, they see brain activity, and she's still in the coma. She's not moving. Nothing is on respirators, tubes, dialysis, you name it, every machine was supporting her. So her body didn't have to work. All the machines took over and were keeping her alive. And they did see, and then they said, we talked to the surgical team, and like, when can they operate on her, when the bones, because bones start reforming after a certain while. You can only, like, if you break your arm, you have to get it fixed ASAP. You can't wait 2 weeks, because the bone starts settling already, and then they have to re-break it, and it becomes a hole, or they form, you know what I mean? So they said, especially with the head and face, they don't have that time frame. It's not like quite just like a broken arm. So anyway, within the time frames, everything seemed to align, and they managed to do the surgery, life-saving surgery, just so she could, her jaw, to reconstruct the jaw and stuff like that. And a lot of the other injuries, and anyway, I'm not going to get into all that stuff, but yeah, and she survived. And 2 months, 1 month at St. Mike's in the trauma unit, and then transferred to for a week in the global. And then she went to UHN, the downtown, for brain rehabilitation, that 11th floor where they have people with neurological issues and accident, just everybody's got traumas with their upper part of their body. And before we left, when that surgeon looked at the MRI, it was like, my first CD was called Without Words in 2005. That was the first CD, because of instrumental. At that time I was doing all instrumental guitar. And it was so ironic. He knocked on the door, and I stayed there for the first 10 days. I stayed at the hospital. I didn't know what to do with my life. I was like, I just wanted to be there. And it was COVID, and they wouldn't let anybody in. And luckily I was allowed in there in a little room, a nurse's room, where they weren't allowed to congregate anymore, the staff. So they have a lot of open rooms. So I just stood there in a chair. I slept, and finally, people brought me some clothes, my family. I was like sitting in a chair but I couldn't sleep. And it was the first week was a nightmare. But anyway, we got through that and made it out. And after that, when the surgeon who was away, I think the Italian surgeon, I forget his name, but he was just such an awesome guy. He told me what to tell you, how we've gone from a vegetative brain, no brain function, to, we see brain activity, and obviously there's other damage we're dealing with, but he goes, I'm without words for you. And I was like, and I kind of broke down at that point. I was like, I don't know, like, whatever out there, people you're listening to, whatever people believe in, like, I didn't know what to say. I didn't know what to think. There was no explanation, but I just was so thankful. Here we are today, and she's just got back to work finally at Centennial College, where I teach as well on music. Yeah, and she's finally, it was 2 years, over 2 years of being at home, recuperating and recovering and healing, and relearning to walk, and all the stories that you saw read on the covers of the Sun. I think 3 times we were on there for Liz Braun has been so kind. Power back. We fast forward. As we started walking and getting her life back, and amongst rehab and stuff like that, we were into rehab after that, after UHN, and in December that year, 2020, into rehab, and then finally just in-home therapy and myofascial. We had so much stuff. We had a personal um, um, people coming in here. I guess sorry for the lack of therapists coming in for the home. And but she's been healing slowly. We're still doing we're still, now she's wearing braces, and we're trying to refix her jaw, because at that time wasn't like cosmetic surgery she had, it was like life-saving surgery. And but now she's back teaching, and we put this show together, Take Your Power Back, and she's been doing public speaking, helping women to talk about gender-based violence, helping end gender-based violence, talking about community and how we can give back, and how we can all rise and work together in very tough times. And that's what the community here in Durham did, and all over. It was simply amazing how the community rose to us and created a meal train for us, where every night a family would cook a meal and bring it to our house for months on end. Yeah, it was so beautiful. You saw the best of humanity, and we saw the best and the worst. We saw both sides, but we took in the positives, and that be positive. I kept saying I wrote a song called Be Positive, and that featured Mr. Dave Cause, a great friend of mine, 13-time Grammy nominated saxophonist in the US, and a friend of mine, Dave, graciously said, I want to be on this track for Kim, because we've known him before. I was on his cruise last year again. He's such a beautiful human being. So I had this song in mind, because what happened, the story of Be Positive, because I guess you probably read that a lot. There's a lot of that Be Positive, and it's not like we're promoting toxic positive. It's like a real story, because her blood type is Be Positive. And I only found out that day, on the first day arriving to the hospital. You have bombarded with questions by all the staff. There were so many teams at St. Mike's who needed to find out, okay, what is going on, because this person is basically, we're trying to save somebody's life, who's this just like a hair of a hair to passing. They said we need to know her allergies and medications, and family history and surgeries, and she had thyroid cancer. She was on some pills, but she got over that years ago. And so I guess, but then they came to her blood type, and one said we need a transfusion, because she lost so much blood overnight. It was, it was really bad. So they said we're taking her, we're gonna have to do a transfusion. What's her blood type? And that's when I broke down, I blanked, and I said, I don't know her blood type, and all that chaos, all these teams coming in. You have like rape crisis, you had surgery team, you had the brain surgeon, the brain team, all these teams. And I was bombarded, and I broke down, and I said, I don't know what type, and I felt so horrible. And then later that night, a nice, wonderful nurse came back later in the evening when I was in the holding, and she was in the coma, and they're getting her all settled. And I was in the waiting room, and she came back and, your wife's blood type, we did the transfusion, and we want to let you know her blood type's Be Positive. And then well, of course her blood type's Be Positive. Wait, I had to guess of all the blood types, I'm O negative. So, I could have guessed that. So I said there, and my head just flashed, like, there's a song there for Rob to write one day when I'm ready. And sure enough, later late that year, and then the next year I released it in March of 2022. No, 20. Oh my God, I'm going back now. 2021, I released that song. I've been doing that diversity series volume. So, and Dave was on there, and that's the Be Positive logo and what we've created, and it's part of the Take Your Power Back show, and kind of the attitude, like, how do you rise? How do you take your power back after such a horrific, and everybody suffers trauma. Everybody's trauma is unique to their own life, and it's not to diminish that, and it's not a competition or anything like that. It's just this is what we endured, with the pandemic. Everything was going on, and yeah, I'm in music. It was hit hard, the business. I was, like I said earlier, I was lucky I was teaching, but obviously there's no gigs, there's no shows, there's nothing to perform. So we're home and doing isolating and stuff like that. So, and I'm very happy we're here today talking to you about this. And yeah, like she said, she's back to work now, finally. And because she really wanted to get back in public speaking. She's doing public speaking. We got an event tomorrow night we're doing for Safe Hope Homes. which is a organization that helps girls who've been trafficked. It's a huge problem out here and everywhere. It's a global problem. Human trafficking is an absolute huge problem, and I guess we've been now brought into this with what's happened to Kim, and dealing with the police and the courts now, and we're gonna have to deal with that obviously later in November. This whole thing goes to trial. Um, so
So
yeah,
so the guy was this
yeah,
despicable person
yeah.
has been caught.
Yeah, they caught him.
Yes.
Yeah, 2 weeks later, in August, they caught him in Ottawa. He had fled to Ottawa,
Good.
and they apprehended him there. And yeah, so you know, he's still innocent until proven guilty. He's just waiting for his court date. Like it's been delayed after delay, and the usual. We're looking for justice. There's a legal system. I don't know what the justice part. We haven't got that yet. So
Yeah.
we're waiting. So we're hoping we get some justice, but everything's been all the teams and everybody's been helping us. It's been it's been as good as it can be, I guess. But I do find a lot of times you feel like you're re-victimized. When you're on this side of the fence, there's not much. You just wait, and people are left waiting and dealing with your injuries and dealing with your own life, getting your life back. But there's not much in place for you. There's been the community has been amazing. Victim services have helped as well, and with therapy and with her the braces and stuff like that. But that's one area I'll definitely pull it out today. I think the government of Ontario needs to step up big time, because there's nothing in place for victims of violent or of crimes. There's nothing in place. So I would feel for a young, any person, any mom, any daughter, any wife who maybe didn't have a means, to have family to fall back on, shelter and a home, and who's going to take care of them during this time. If you were imagine if you were a single person who this happened to you. So that's something that we're lobbying for. We have the Kimberly Project, where my sister-in-law started a charitable organization, and it's a registered charity. It took over 2 years. So thank you, Catherine Tardik, my brother's wife, sister-in-law, and they've created a charitable organization who's helping to change the laws, petitioning, starting from the provincial government and trying to change and basically make the laws for criminals, for offenders of violent crimes, for gender-based violent crimes, much more significant. Because right now, honestly, it's a cakewalk for
Yeah.
these despicable human beings. So they're getting off with a slap on the wrist a lot of times, whether it's domestic violence or a random act of violence like this. So, this has been the world I've been brought into, not by our choice, by, the way of these, men need to change. I think guys' attitudes towards women, still, it's very archaic. There's very still that whole patriarchy we're dealing with. I'm noticing it. It needs to change. Our young, especially for our young youth, our sons, are the boys coming up in the world, really need to hear these messages of how, just, the attitudes toward women are still in the Stone Ages at times still. I see it too, whether it's locker room talk or, guy talk. Sometimes I might have to voice up and say, hey guys, we really can't talk about women like that. Like, it's not right. That's not the way. And it really, it's always women talking to other women about these things, but it really has to be more men talking about it, because we're the culprits a lot of times. If you look at the statistics, it's I don't know, I'm not going to quote statistics here, but it's large. Men definitely rule a percentage of gender-based violence, acts of violence. So we need to address that. We need to toughen our laws here in Canada, and we're going to try to do that, I guess. But meanwhile, how can I take my power back? And thanks for having me on the show. Is with music. I've been writing all new music over the pandemic, new albums. My album Diversity. I put a 4-volume series together, kind of a best of, and also new material, all sorts of new songs as well. So not just reshuffling the deck, but putting out all new music there. And more than an album's worth of new music is released. And the next one drops, the last one, February 10th, with Diversity 4. It's for more guitar aficionados. So it's more guitar for guitar players, and it's tunes that are more guitar progressive, I guess, or something I guess a guitar player can relate to. But again, anybody can listen to music. So that's why it's diverse and all covers different styles. And there are kind of, and the tune Be Positive is on there. Another tune, Vulnerable, I wrote as well. That was by another person in your field in media, Vicky Van Dyke from the Wave 94.7. She's a dear friend, and when we were in rehab, I think in December when we had moved to Lakeridge after the hospitals in UHN, it was months and months of rehab. I'm forgetting, but I think it was December, and she called me to see how Kim was doing, and I was really struggling, and I was in therapy at the time dealing with anger issues. I had a lot of anger, I really just, as like any man would be, you don't, you cross the line. There's a certain line that you don't cross with a man's wife, a man's mom, a man's daughter. There's a, it doesn't have, every guy knows that, so once it's been so brutally, you've been like you know, as a man, just wow, I can't even put the words to it. What happened to my wife, and anyway, I was really struggling with that, a lot of anger, and I was feeling very vulnerable. I was like open. I had to talk about my emotions with the therapist, and it was all new to me. And I'm a guitar player. I play guitar, I write songs, I like shows, I love music, I teach music as well. I love people. It's always positive. All my CDs were like, Stay Limitless and Bell, Balance, Energy, Laughter, Love, Ringing the Bell of Life, and Synergy, creating synergy, The Right Time, Move Forward. All these positive albums I would always try, because that's who really I am. And now I could see it because music was so imperative in my wife's healing. Music was helped heal her. You could, I don't know what the studies are, but they say, when someone's in a coma, how good it is to play music to them, talk positive affirmations. And I did that. Obviously, in that time, I was still in shock and dismay of what happened. I was just doing it, that's what I do. I'm a musician. So I would play her on my phone. I couldn't even get in the ICU. You can't even get in there because it was so strict with COVID. I could basically stand outside the door in a little chair I sat, at first, and I couldn't go in there. There was officers guarding her room for the first while because the case was so in the news and everything like that. And then I just sat there for a while. So I would just sneak my phone in with little messages, honey, I love you. Just, I'm here for you. And, and her son was the only one to at times come up with. So I would just, anyway, him and and then I would play little messages and songs. And eventually when she came to the ICU, I could go in and see her, and I had to strap on all the PPE, all the gear, and I could stand beside her bed there, and I would play her songs on my phone and messages from our friends too of hope. People were sending little messages, please play this, tell her, and I think that really helped. We look to this day, we did a show for Hope for Healing at the Toronto Resource Library. We just did another Take Your Power Back show in December. It's all about music can heal. I know we've heard this, it's a cliche, but it really can. There's strength in music and the energy and the vibrations and the way the brain, is functioning. You can hear everything. The doctor says she can hear, when you're in a coma, you can still hear things, obviously they're not responding to it, but the way it works, from what I was told, that you can definitely talk to them. So I played, the only thing I could do was, not a singer, but I do sing some, but I played music. I just played her my songs, and Kimberly's song, and I played her Once in a Lifetime. I wrote this, one of my songs, Numbers of Hope. I have a song I wrote. There's 3 or 4 songs I wrote for already before this happened to her. That really helped her. She, whether she consciously or not, but she looks now the way she, she's responded, and her brain came back online and was functioning through, I think that positive messaging feedback that she was getting, stimuli, really did help. I really believe that. So that's where we're at today. So we're back, and Take Your Power Back. The show's going on. So, I've been talking your ear off here. So
Quite all right, my friend. Quite all right.
Yeah.
Where can we go social media wise to know when the upcoming shows are happening?
Yeah, you can either go to the takeyourback.ca website. We have that, and we have you can go on to robtardik.com or kimberlyblack.com, but we have our Take Your Power Back website. So if you go to takeyourpowerback.ca, I think it's .ca, I'd have to double check, or .com, one of the two, you're going to find it. That has all the dates. Our EPK is on there, and social media, of course, if you go on Instagram or the typical ones. And Kim's got an amazing YouTube channel, Kimberly Black. Just as that is, she's the only Kimberly Black on YouTube. It's an amazing YouTube channel talking about ways to take your power back for women. She's done hundreds of videos. There's so much content there for people. for people to look onto. And if you're feeling that you need somehow, how do I take your power back? And that's what the show really gives, takeaways. We don't want to just make this about our story and tell about it. No, we don't even actually get into a lot of we don't want to talk about the dark and the gory parts. That's not what we're trying to, glorify. We're trying to glorify the beauty of community, the healing power of music, uh, the amazing police and ambulance and medical, the team of doctors and everybody. We want to thank them so much, and how we should all be thankful, because they've done so much for us. And I know they take a lot of flack in the media and stuff like that, but I saw it firsthand in the hospitals during COVID, what was going on, and for months. And I only have good things to say what I saw, how they were treating patients and how hard they were working, and selflessly giving, back to try to help others, because it was packed in there with people all the time at that time, right? We were right in the thick of it. So that's what Take Your Power Back. So yeah, hopefully people can come out to Ajax. It's at the St. Francis Theater. This one's a small theater, and then we'll still be looking at lining up more shows. And there's a lot more. It's just a seedling, really. This show has really just started. We premiered in September at Flato Markham with Eric Larivier, and he's such an awesome supporter of the arts and new art and stuff. And then Toronto Resource, and now we have this one. And I'll be looking to do more, probably summertime. No, theaters kind of go dark in the summer, but in the fall and next year, I want to ramp it up. But looking to find ways to scale it, I guess would be the word, right? How do we scale? Now we're in that mode. Like, how do I scale this project? How do we get the message? Because I think there's such a strong message here to people. Because I think a lot of people my band can play, I can play songs, but I like the combination. It's kind of fresh with storytelling of my wife, and then set to my music. And then at times our band will play. We have guest vocalists come out as well, and guest artists and stuff. I have plans for that we've already had, and we continue to. And I think it's a really, really good show, I think. And it's heart moving. We got some great testimonies from people already saying that what a touching story this was, and very moving. And they didn't know what to expect. It's hard to sell it sometimes, with original art, right? It's not like I'm doing a Beatles tribute or Supertramp, or people know right away, oh, we're getting there, we're buying tickets. That, so when you're trying to sell a new show like this, Take Your Power Back, it's like, it was even from, like, it's funny, I love that show, Come From Away. That was such an amazing theater production. But there's still times I'm talking to people, I go, have you seen Come From Away? And they go, no, what's that? What's that about? Because it doesn't tell you, the story. Again, it's an amazing, and I highly recommend everybody. And that was kind of one of the plays that I took inspiration from. I go, look at that, Come From Away, the story of community coming together and helping people in a dire time. They didn't know what was going on, during 9/11. It was such, again, a crazy traumatic experience for so many people. But the way that town in Newfoundland came together and supported those people, gave them food, gave them a bed, and helped them through the worst times of their life. So that's what we're thinking, that Taking Power Back is like that. We're trying, how do we help community? How can we help others, and together, synergize with one another to do something good. And but as you know, it's hard to when you have a good message, sometimes it gets lost in all the other stuff in the media and stuff like that. So, especially in the news and stuff like that. So we're trying to put out that good, positive message, and how we can come together as human beings and support one another and take your power back.
You definitely did that, my friend. Look,
Yeah.
I just want to say I love you.
Thank you, brother. Love this.
Big,
Yeah.
big love and support for your wife and your family. Please give her a big hug for me. I'm going to do everything I can to make it out to one of the shows.
Thank you.
And
Yeah.
you always have my support. Stay strong, stay positive, and know that you and your family are absolutely loved. Thank you so much for this interview, and thank you for being so open to me.
Thank you, man. Of course. Thank you. I appreciate you. Always the years of friendship. You've always been a kind person to me. So thanks, man. It's great.